Hey guys, Akariss here. Welcome to another guide kind of video. I've been meaning to do this one for quite a while, but I've come to understand that a lot of people don't really understand like the best way to play AR. And that's not actually about the matches, that's not even really about the team comps or about the defenses. So there's a little bit of that in here, but mostly this is just going to be a kind of like tips and tricks, optimization on how to play AR at the top level, and how you can pretty much get to as high as a rank as you want to be without even having to play against top players. I've been using this strategy since forever because it's really effective. And with the whole double up on Aether situation, you can pretty much get away with 8 matches to 10 matches a week without even having to usually play against a lot of top players. So, as the title says, we're going to go through all of these. I'm going to have my notes right under me. In fact, this will pretty much spoil what I'm going to go through, but you can always review it as I go through and explain exactly what each one is. So I'm going to have about 4 of them, as you can see below. Go ahead and read them as you need to, or pause the video whenever you feel like it. Alright, so just to keep you guys in the loop, today is Monday. I'm in EU time, EU Eastern time, and it is Monday, so reset is about to happen in 12 hours, as you can see over there. I'm guaranteed basically to get tier 27 without even like worrying. I've secured enough defense, I've got enough leeway, I have the double Naga comps, I'm set for tier 27 as long as I play 3 matches. So I'm gonna have 2 double up matches and a single match. And the best way for me to go about this is, you might not realize, is actually just to not click this battle button. Yeah, it's actually not to click the battle button. This is how you do it, so listen carefully. First of all, every single day throughout the week, you should be playing as minimum as possible. Meaning, as you can see here, my Aether is 230 of 250 at the beginning of this day. It means that I didn't use all my Aether on day 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Never, if you want to optimize, never push your rankings, never push your matches, because what that does is set you up to be higher ranked than you would want to be. So this means that the matchmaking will find people relatively above your ranking. So right now, if someone wants to find me on defense, they're going to be around rank 3000 or so, and instead of being like rank 100 or 500 or something if I used all my Aether. In fact, I'd probably be pretty close to front page, maybe not front page, but very close to it if I played all my matches here. And that's a huge skill gap and a strategic gap that somebody has, whether they're hitting you on front page or back here. Now, I usually, depending on it, whether I have ladders or not, tend to, have a fun match at the end of the season, make some good Twitch content, make some good YouTube content, to just have a challenge here and there. But you don't have to do what I do, so don't worry about trying to like make your final match of the season or pushing your Aether as a strategic choice to get up to rankings. The only rank that matters is the rank at the end of the season for collecting your rewards. So tier 27 being your aim, or tier 26, whatever, whether you have 1 air, 2 airs, 1 Naga, or 2 Nagas. Your goal is to be at those scores and these rankings at the end of the season. That means like literally hours before, not first day. It's not a race to be there. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So your goal should be all the way here. I'm pretty much set on tier 27 because I've only lost 56 lift this whole season, and I haven't used a single ladder or lost a single unit on offense. And I'm going to share exactly what all that is. So, always use minimum Aether. The only exception to this is on Friday, where you can afford to take a single match, and by doing a single match instead of a 2 times, you just tend to hover a little bit lower in rank, higher up, where again, you're targeting people who hit you around your ranking rather than getting hit by the higher up you go, the harder the people, generally speaking, can hit you. It's not always the case, especially if more people do this and everyone's hanging back, then technically the skill range will be, maybe you'll run into some good players once in a while. It does happen. So yeah, the only day you can change is for one times is on Friday and Monday. This goes from 8 matches to 10 matches a week. So if you're willing to play a little bit more per the week, you can also kind of manipulate your defense results a little bit this way. It has worked for me, so I do recommend it. Otherwise, just 2 times like every single day. And you'll end up with 8 matches a week. Both are good strategies. Don't 2 times if you run out of ladders, because then you just take big risks. Alright, so now, some of you may have noticed right away that I have a fishing team here. Now, this is intentional. A fishing team is basically just giving somebody a free win. And how do you know when to put up or use a fishing team? That's pretty much just paying attention to your defense results. So, in this case, this little opening here where it doesn't say lift loss control active, you got to pay attention to it. This was my most recent defense where I was out of immunity 17 hours ago. And this means that on the 20th hour, I am not immune anymore, and any other defense results as of that 20th hour coming in will give me a defense result. It will hit me with lift. So up until that point, what you want to do is try to fish. I call it fishing rematches. What this means is that somebody hits your defense team, which is your fishing team, gets a free win, but you end up having a failure with a rematch showing. So this guy rematched me, so I can't rematch him back. But basically, he hit me while the free team was up. Now, this can happen randomly, or somebody can rematch you, and actually both cases are beneficial, believe it or not. So he takes his free ether, he takes his free win, and I get a defense result. Now that's, again, it's still beneficial even if somebody rematches you. And the reason for this is because the defense system has a sort of algorithm. The numbers here, see this? Number 8, 9, 8, 7, 6. There is an average amount of defenses per season per player. And the more times you get hit, the lower priority you are on that queue. Obviously, there are some exceptions to this rule. But if you've ever been hit like 7 days in a row, 7 times in a day, usually the next few days you'll actually ninja, meaning you won't get hit at all because you're so far down in the priority of queue of people being fought on their defense results. This is to make sure that everyone kind of gets hit evenly, distributed evenly throughout a season. There's no way to really like try to get hit 7 times in a day and make sure you never get hit for like the next few days. That just happens by chance, and I couldn't say exactly what it is, but the point is, if somebody does rematch you and gets a free win, because when you click on a person, you can see what one of their units on their defense team is. For example, this guy has a +10 Jafar on his defense team. I don't know if I would take this as a rematch option, but it does give you that information. So when you are doing the rematches, and I'll go through them later, that gives you information to make your matches easier in a sense, and also gives you an idea of what you're playing against. For example, this Jafar is likely on an infantry pulse team because he's giving away the information of an infantry pulse. So by essentially fishing your rematches, like let's say these failures were fishing rematches, I can look at this guy here and say, okay, he has a rally up res bonus doubler Sothis at +7. That's pretty high merges. And he's given rally up res to her, which is traditionally not on base kit, and bonus doubler. So basically, if your team comp has like Panic or Aversa, you'll probably find this one a bit easier to handle than someone who might not have that. That's a good information to have before you click the rematch button. But generally speaking, the rematch button is super important at the end of the week. It's like this guy is running Breath of Life Tiki, and armors are not that good on Aether Raids, especially on defense. So as a dragon, as an armored dragon, you probably have some sort of armor slaying, or Air herself has Mystic Boost, which pretty much nullifies a lot of Tiki and, dragon adaptive damage, and that makes it super simple to kind of say this, rematch, double up Aether, and let's say you're like rank 500 because this is your final match of the season, boom, you just got yourself a very specific win. Like, you got yourself the knowledge to know that when you click rematch, you play against this. That's why fishing is so important, so you get hit less and you get choices at the end of the season, and you should hold these until the end of the season as to what you want to play against. So right now, I haven't been hit until 17 hours ago. This guy looked at my fishing map and saw there was like a naked Cecilia, no build, so he said, okay, I'm going to take that rematch for free, get my free win, and I get another defense result, which means that I get hit less. I could end up ninjaing this day as a result of that. Now it has been 17 hours, so I have to switch my team back because there's still a chance that somebody is going to fight against me. Keep in mind when you switch between your fishing team and your main team that your offense buildings are still the same. This is especially important with offense structures and such, because sometimes you might forget to do this during 2 seasons. You got to maintain it the same on both. So, you know, I have Bolt Tower, I have Flyer School, I have Escape Ladder, and my structure, fort structure on the exact same spots here and on the fishing team. That's important. Don't forget to do this every single season. With that being said, going forward, I want to kind of, you know, you guys picked up on how the whole fishing thing, I hope. If you don't, just review the past few minutes. But basically, fish, choose your matches. End of season ends up being easy because you can just not click battle at all. You do battle during the week, and then on the final day, you don't have to click battle. You check your rematches, and you can do 2-3 matches depending on how much ether you have left. Like for me, I'm going to have 3 matches today, so I'm going to pick out 3 of my easiest matches here. And that's just by scouting out the information provided through a rematch. This is a really effective tactic, doesn't force you to play against front players. The thing that's really important here is usually the players that hit you near the beginning of a season tend to be, you know, tier 21. They might have coasted and they might not have like a very optimized, you know, defense team. Like for example, this guy has Pain, Speed 2, Lift to Serve, Physic. Like these are kind of suboptimal choices on a defense team. We know he's not using defense mythics because he doesn't have he could be using like a defense team with Naga on it with Astra, but there's no other ones. That's the only information we might have. So, you know, that's still pretty good info to have. And the fact that he's not like a +10, you know, legendary Alm being provided as the front unit, we know that's at least not going to hit us. Like it could be on the team, he could be baiting us, but generally speaking, you'll know if somebody has that on a defense team because they don't want their rematch, which is counter productive. You actually want people to hit you, at least through rematches. So, next point is the difference between Astra Anima and Light Dark. There is a subtle difference here that you got to keep in mind. So, right now it's Flyer School bonus structure, and the only structure I use on my teams to help me is Bolt Tower. And this is because it helps with Vantage strats, this is because it helps for cleaning up. If you bait on turn 2 with a tank, for instance, turn 3 after a successful bait, the Bolt Tower does 25 damage regardless of Healing Tower, because Healing Tower is the beginning of the enemy phase and not on the player phase. So Bolt Tower hit makes cleanup a lot easier. So I do really favor Bolt Tower. However, Bolt Tower isn't something I'll always recommend because it does mess up some strategies. For example, Bolt Tower can invite healers on the enemy team to start healing. Bolt Tower can, you know, start a sacrifice if someone's using sacrifice AI. And not so good for Gale Force strategies, because a lot of Gale Force strategies might require a second hit, and if you Bolt Tower, then sometimes you might screw that up. So again, pros and cons to Bolt Tower, don't always recommend it. What I do recommend though is using a minimum amount of structures. And this is important because if you run into teams like this, where you actually need the space, then having the least amount of structures means you have more spaces to smite, and it means that these more aggressive teams like Restore Traps and Cav Lines can't pick off your weaker units. So it is advantageous to actually consider maybe just using less structures. Additionally, this is the difference between Astra Anima and one I do recommend using. Pretty much the only offense structure worth upgrading to level 2, and not necessarily anymore, is a Healing Tower on offense. And this is directly to counter Duma, who has Upheaval. Now, Duma doesn't tend to be on this lane. He is, but the times he is, he's usually like in the corner, and that's like a joke strat. If you run into somebody who has a corner Duma, you've pretty much like probably already won, so who cares if your Healing Tower got hit. But if he's near the middle and a frontline unit, then your Healing Tower here is important to just heal you up on turn 2 and then allow you to not have to deal with like Fell Breath, or just 7 damage may have contributed to losing a tanking calculation. So those are the sort of things that means that Healing Tower is almost, I would say, mandatory on Astra Anima. The exception to this is if you have like a Heron on your team, like all your teams. So if you have a Heron, they can do the healing, like literally 7 healing, 2 turns if there's 2 Dumas, 1 if there's only 1. So Yeah, healing tower or use herons. Best thing to always consider for Astra Anima. It's a solid rule. Even with Thrasir coming out, you're still going to see plenty of Dumas, especially with them being free. Now, and the final thing that I'm going to go over today, and this is, I'm going to make a more extensive video for this. So I'm going to go over like quick tips on team comps, because I see this as a common issue. Make sure every team comp has like a purpose. So you got to have like a reason to use this, okay? What I usually consider, I'm going to go over them in my special teams here. First of all, always consider that these sort of team comps need to be 2 mythics usually, a bonus, and a carry and a support. The only exclusions to this rule is when you have a mythic that's a bonus, so it gives you that extra space. But generally speaking, 2 heirs or 2 Nagas bonus plus carry support. It's a standard rule here. I'll give like this team as an example of that. Fjorm is a bonus, 2 Nagas, Corrin support, and Azura support. Now usually the bonus can be dead weight, so it's something you don't necessarily use. So if Fjorm was something like Alphonse, then I would need Fjorm here and Corrin here. And that creates deviation in your team comps. What this means is that every team comp should have a reason to be used. So this comp here has Corrin and Azura. This comp has Kronia and Azura, with Kronia being a vantage unit. This comp has Loki and Azura, so no Corrin, and Loki kind of being able to trap a unit. Again, you can use like Bridal Fjorm instead of Loki, for instance. This one has a kind of Gale Force comp with Naysala. And over here, on Light Season, I have Jomke, basically Vantage comp. Tanking with Camilla, usually. Double Dancer with tanking, usually Cam would be here too as well, but Air is my current tank. Over here, I have the Gale Force strat, so 2 Gale Force Cavs and a Dancer. Sometimes you can't actually bring a Dancer, because as I said, you'd have 2 mythics and a bonus. So 2 Cavs by themselves could be enough. Wings of Mercy on Air, for instance, could be a good tech choice, or on the bonus unit to pretty much clean up or help out. And then an anti-armor team, which would be here with Narcian. So if you feel like you're having trouble against tons of armors, then you bring some sort of invested hammer slaying unit, for instance. Just to make this clear, Narcian is not the greatest of armor slayers, but it gets the job done because he's got hit and run, he'll get them moving, and my teams tend to be like full flyers, so he synergizes well with them. So that's kind of like my quick tips on team comp creation, but I'm going to go into far more detail in another video, so look forward to that. What is most important is that you took the tips and tricks that were mentioned earlier in the video with their explanations and take that to your best use in pretty much climbing ranks. If there's any sort of confusion or questions on this sort of thing, which there might be, feel free to hit up the Discord in the description below. There's a questions channel there. There's an Aether Raids channel. Tons of people have the know-how there to help you out with the understanding of this stuff, including myself. I'll read the YouTube comments as well below. You guys can feel free to ask there, and I'll help you guys out with that. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything. Feel free to give the video a like, sub to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys. Much love. Peace.